So before we go ahead and actually start wiring this stuff up, okay, we're actually going to go ahead and draw out and sketch out what our wiring plan is going to look like here. So throughout this unit, we're going to be looking for three main components here. Okay, we're going to be wiring up switches. Okay, that's going to be shown by this symbol here at the top. Okay, we have our sockets. Okay, this is a circle within a circle, and then we have our receptacle or our outlet symbol here as well. Okay, denoted by the two circles inside that box here. Okay, so what do these actually look like when I'm going ahead and drawing this? Okay, so here we have our just basic light switch. It flips on, off. Okay, that's going to cut or connect our circuit. Okay, flip it on the light, flip it on the outlet, what have you. Next we have our socket here. Okay, this is what actually your light bulb screw into. Once again, just like any of our electrical parts here, it's going to have our screws here on the back side for our wires to go ahead and connect to, give that power. And finally, once again, we have our receptacle, otherwise known as our outlet, denoted here. All right, so now we've made our way over to our electrical board here. Before we start working though, right, we diagnosed that we need to go ahead and put the receptacle in. Okay, but before we do that, we actually need to go ahead and strip some wire here. Okay, so right here I have 14 gauge solid core wire. Solid core means that the wire, copper wire inside here, which is going to carry our electrical current through, is solid copper and not braided like you might see on other applications. Okay, so to get the wire exposed copper here, I'm going to take my wire strippers here. Okay, this is going to have a gauging on here of the thickness of the wire. You'll notice the higher you go up in number, okay, on our strippers here, the smaller diameter wire we're going to get. The lower number I go, okay, the thicker the wire is going to get. Okay, so we're using 14 gauge wire here today. So in this case, I also have cutters on here as well to cut my wire. So I'm just going to go ahead, cut my wire here. All right, this is 14 gauge. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to find the 14 listed here on my wire cutters. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. I've identified the 14 on my wire strippers. And I want to take about roughly, I don't know, I like to do a little bit more for a little bit more play, but I do about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch of play there. Okay, so now I took it off. You have the right gauge. Notice the insulation is still on there. Just let that go. Okay, it's not going to hurt anything. All right, so now I have my solid core wire there. Okay, so I'm going to do a technique called a J-hook here. Okay, you're going to do this for just about all your connections here. What a J-hook is, you can take the little pliers here. You might not have these specific cutters, and if you don't, you can go ahead and use our needle nose. I'm going to take my wire here, and I'm actually going to curl it into a J. Okay, so if you take a look here, all right, we now have a little J-hook. It's going to allow that screw to go in and connect nicely to and create our connection there. So just like in our sketch, we diagnosed we have our hot wire. In this case, it's going to be our red wire coming from our breaker box here. And we decided that our white wire is going to be our neutral or our negative wire here. If you take a notice, in that last little segment there, right, we did our J-hooks. I have a J-hook on this wire right here. I have a J-hook on this wire right here, my hot wire. In this case, we're using a receptacle. Okay, the receptacle, if you look on the back side here, right, has our gold-plated screws, and this is going to represent our hot side of the receptacle. Okay, on this side, I'm going to have the silver-plated, and it's going to be our negative side or our neutral side. Okay, all that is an indicator to you on which side you should put your hot or negative wire when you're going to go ahead and wire these up. You may also notice that we have a green little nut on this side here. Okay, this green screw is just a ground for us. We're not worrying about grounds in this video, but down the line, if you go into your house, this might be something you want to consider doing, and I highly recommend. Okay, so let's go ahead and see how we're going to hook up our J-hook here. It's going to be the same thing we're going to be seeing in our module here. Okay, so what I like to do with this J-hook, doesn't matter in this case what screw you put this in, since we still have that connection on both sides. Okay, I'm going to take my J-hook. You'll notice it's going to snap in real nice to our screw on this side here, if you can kind of see that. Okay, next, right now it's still got a lot of play in it, right? Next I take my Phillips head screwdriver. Okay, you can tell it's a Phillips by the cross on it. You can tell by the cross on our screw right here. And all I'm going to do is take this, I'm going to righty-tighty this all the way down to this is snug, so I have my connection here. You should feel that screw, that wire tightening up for us there. Okay, so there's my hot connection. Okay, next I'm going to take my negative or neutral connection, put it on this side, and same thing, you guessed it. We're gonna go ahead, make sure that's nice, good. It's okay if you gotta play around with it. And we're just gonna go ahead and tie that down right and tidy once more until that's snug as well. So if you take a look, I now have a neutral connection on this side and a hot connection on this side. Okay, having a little exposed copper like that, not the end of the world for what we're doing stuff. Obviously, the more you use this, the more proficient you're gonna get with your J-hooks. Okay, but as I go ahead and I mount this receptacle into my box here, I'm gonna have these two connections looking just like this.
All right, welcome back everybody. Briefly, we're gonna talk about using wire nuts in our circuits on our boards. You're gonna pretty much need this for all of the circuits we're doing to maybe extend a wire, or if you're using switches, maybe from our power coming in to our junction box here and you need to extend it. So this can be our wire nuts. So you can combine nearly up to maybe 4 or 5 amount of wires. We have the yellow and the red. The yellow is going to be more about 2 or 3 wires. Red could be like 3 and up. So it's kind of different sizes. The most common way you want to think about this is that you're going to be twisting these together. When you're holding your wires, they're going to be going into your wire nut. You're going to be twisting with one hand. So my wires here, I'm going to get them as close as I can to each other. I'm going to hold them together with my one hand. I'm going to put my wire nut over, and then now I'm doing a little bit of pressure in my left hand to push into the wire nut, and then my right hand is going to be actually twisting. So my left hand, I'm using a little bit of pressure, pushing it in. Right hand, I'm going to start twisting this. And as you twist it, you're going to feel a little bit of resistance. And then what that is actually inside, it's the wire nut is twisting the wires, kind of like a double helix DNA maybe pattern. So as I'm twisting this, feel resistance. When it's a good amount of resistance, you're maybe happy with it, you kind of stop. If I can give this a pretty good tug from my wires pulling that way, wire nut pulling this way, I feel like it's pretty secure. So again, passed my little snug test, I'm ready to go.
So today we're going to be doing job 1 of our electrical unit here for you guys. Job 1 is going to be wiring a duplex outlet in a junction box. So pretty much all we're going to be doing is taking a duplex outlet like this, okay, to plug into both sides here. So all we're doing is putting power to our hot side here, and then our neutral side on this screw as well. All right, and that's all we're doing here today for this first job. So for the first job here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to actually draw up how to wire up our receptacle here. Okay, so all we want to do is get power from our power source here into our receptacle. Okay. First thing I want to do is go ahead and take a look at my symbol list here and to know which one is for my receptacle or outlet. Okay, so if you take a look here from our list, you see that this little square here with these 2 circles and the prongs on the outside is our receptacle. Okay, and since we're going to be going only to one junction box, okay, that is these guys over here. Okay, I'm going to draw that first receptacle symbol into my box right here in the top. Next thing I want to do is determine which side of my drawing here is my hot or negative side here. Okay, so I have my hot wire, I'm going to denote as my darker wire here. And then my negative or neutral is going to be this other lighter color here. Okay. So now I pretty much have to determine which side of my receptacle is going to be my hot or negative side. So I like to kind of keep things simple in my head, keep sort of crisscrossing wires. Okay, I'm going to denote this side is my hot, so I'm going to make a little symbol up here, and this side is my neutral side on my outlet. So I'm going to take my wire, and I'm going to connect it up to my prong here. Okay. Next, I'm going to take my neutral, okay, I'm going to take it up, and I'm going to connect to this side here. So I have my neutral connecting it to this side, and my positive connected to this side. Okay, big thing here for this, okay, this is now going to give power to both sides of my outlet now based on this configuration. All right. So if we're going ahead here, we're going to wire up our little receptacle here. Okay, you'll notice you have a screw here and a screw here. Okay. If we look at our junction box, we already have a mud plate mounted to our junction box here. Okay. This mud plate is going to give us the ability to go ahead and mount our receptacle, your outlet, your switch, wherever you want to mount into that junction box right there. In this case, we're going to go ahead and we're going to mount this receptacle. Okay, if you take a look here as well, we already have our power source coming in. Okay, so this power source is coming all the way down this conduit here from our breaker box here. Okay, so right now I already have my neutral here and my hot cord here. And notice these already have J hooks configured onto them as well. For many of you, this will be the case as well. All right, so before I mount this though, since this is a tight space, I like to go ahead and mount my wires to my receptacle first before I go ahead and tighten it down as needed. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take my hot, okay, with my J hook already situated. Okay, I take my Phillips head. Now I'm going to tighten this down. You're going to feel that wire pull. You just want it snug. Don't over tighten this if you don't want to overstrip our screws here. Next, on this side, take my next J hook. Again, if you got to pull, sometimes you should have some play in these wires. I'm going to take this. And now I'm just going to go ahead and tie down my neutral or your negative. All right, take a look at the way my outlet's now oriented, right? It's not upside down, okay? Looks like a smiling face at you almost. Okay, next, I'm going to take this with my 2 screws and get that situated into these threads on this side here. And all I'm going to do is take my Phillips head again and get this snug. All right, again, if you got to play around with this, nothing wrong with that.
Is that pretty long screws? Right, now I'm going to add my switch. Nice. And
Secure to my mud plate here.
Alright, welcome back everybody. So in this video, we're going to be covering job number 2 for our electrical unit. Job number 2 reads, is wire a single pole switch in a junction box to a light in another junction box. So the 2 components that we're going to be needing, these are going to be on the drawings here, but our real components, we're going to need a single pole switch. So just nice, flip that up and down. That's our first one. Our second component is going to be our socket for then our light bulb. And basically the idea of this circuit is that you flip the switch, turn the light on, flip it down, turn the light off. That'll be pretty much it for job number 2. So the next part we're going to do here, we're going to draw our actual circuit for job number 2. So remember, we're going to need a socket and then a single pole switch. So based off my diagram here that each of us will be having for when we draw in class, I'm going to have my switch right here in the middle, and then I'm going to have my sockets right here on the right side. So for my socket, I'm going to need a positive and a negative. Then for my switch, I'm going to have my hot run through that so then it turns off and on for my light bulb. So like we did in job 1, my blackish wire here is going to be my positive. My tan, or not really tan, grayish is going to be my negative. So I'm going to mark on my single pole switch. I'm going to mark this as well for my socket. So I'm going to say this is my hot side, this is my neutral side. This is all going to be hot for my single pole switch. So if I was going to go ahead and wire this right now, my positive wire is going to go through my switch to my socket. So that's what these 2 screw connections are here for. I'm going to connect my cable from my power source to my first screw. Now to think about it in a way that my electricity is flowing through my switch, so then I'm going to have my second wire go from hot to hot. So it's going to come out the one end, connect to the hot on the light switch. Then for my neutral side, this is straight coming from the power source. It's going to loop around and connect to then my other side of my socket. So now, if I was going to turn my switch on, this will break the connection. It will turn the light off. If I turn it back on, then it will restore power there and it will work for my light switch. Welcome back everybody. This is going to be job number 2. For the circuit for our jobs list, we're going to be talking about wiring a single pole switch to then up to a light bulb. And for our single pole switch here, we're going to put in this in our front junction box from our fuse box. Then our light bulb is going to be all the way up here. Well, remember when we talked about this, we have 2 gold screws here on the side, so we signified this as going to be our hot. So now I got my hot cable coming from my junction box through this conduit. And then if you notice, I have another cable here that's hot running through this conduit to this box and then up to my light socket. We had to extend that using a wire nut, so if you haven't seen that video, I'd definitely go check that out. So the first thing I'm going to be doing here, I'm actually not going to be talking about my switch here. I'm going to be using a wire nut. As you can see, my negative, or not, neutral cable coming from my junction ends here in the junction box, but I need that extended all the way up here to where my light socket is going to be, because that needs a positive and a negative. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to extend it using a wire nut to get that all the way up there. So again, as a quick refresher, if you didn't see that first video, I'm going to be holding my cables here as close together as I can. And then I'm going to put my wire nut on. Again, the yellow ones are going to be like 2 to 3 wires. I'm going to push the wires in, and I'm going to then twist with my right hand. And once I feel that resistance, I would go another couple turns. And once you feel like it's in there, it's twisted a good amount of resistance, you give it a quick tug. If you're happy with that, then 9 times out of 10, I don't think it'll fall out. So again, give it a little tug, feels good, you'll be all right. Now, I have my positive hot coming from the box. I need to connect these onto my single pole switch. So you should already have your J hooks on here. I'm going to be using my Phillips screwdriver. The first one I'm going to put on is going to be right here on the bottom. I'm going to hook it on. I'll go ahead, use my screwdriver and tighten this down. Again, the J hook going to the right side, so kind of clockwise. That's going to help as you tighten. It's going to give you a good connection. Same thing for my other one. Now, this one's going to be the opposite way. Normally, you don't want to do that. With the cable kind of already being here, I'm just going to hook this on. Make sure I have a little bit of tension on it. I'm going to tighten this down. Oop. Kind of see that it popped out a little bit. So I really need to make sure I got a good hook on there. I'm going to tighten it down. There we go. That looks good to me. Give it a little tug. Good. Now, again, for my mud plate, these 2 screws are going to go into my mud plate here. So I'll kind of push my switch into there, line up my screws. As Mr. Feeney said in the first video, these are a little bit long, so it's going to take you maybe a minute. But if you get each of them started, then you can kind of pick one and finish it all the way. So this is started. I'm going to take connection in there. It's not going anywhere. I can double check my J hooks are on, they're attached. My wire nut's in there. The neutral cables haven't slipped out, and I'm looking good so far. All right, welcome back everybody. This is still job 2. Now we're finishing it up. We're gonna add our socket here on the top side. So if you look, we have a neutral and a our hot. So our hot's gonna be our gold, neutral's gonna be our silver. So now I already have my J hooks on my cables coming up through my conduit. So same type of thing. I'm gonna hook my cable on. Now, this is maybe gonna feel a little bit tricky with some people, depending on how long your wires are and everything like that. So my first one, I'm gonna hook it on. I'm gonna tighten my screw down. Make sure I got a good connection. Same thing with my hot. I'm gonna make sure my hook goes around. Again, cables are maybe a little too short. Gotta finesse it a little bit. I'm gonna tighten it down with my Phillips screwdriver. And there we go. Don't really tighten it too much, because we've already had a few of these crack in the shop. And then now, with these sockets, if we hand them to you, these are some maybe the new ones. We'll have the screws with you as well. We have the graveyard kind of screws in the shop, so we can grab a pair of those. But most of them should already have them. So now, when I push my kind of socket down here, I'm going to line up my screws. I'll probably just do one at a time here. So I'm gonna line that up with the kind of bigger side here. And I'm just gonna start it a little bit so I can go in there. Not tighten it down like crazy. We get one side started. Then we'll get my other side down as well. So then now from here, kind of the same thing. You can go down a little bit. Try not to crack it. Again, don't need to be the Hulk. So I'm gonna tighten this down. And then now notice though, instead of the big side, I'm gonna kind of twist it so it's on the shorter side. I don't want to crack down on it too much, but it's secured. Use my J-hooks. Now we can screw in that light bulb and test the job.
Job number 3, okay, we're going ahead and wiring a single pole switch in a junction box to operate the top half of our duplex outlet, or otherwise known as our receptacle here. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and this is make the bottom half hot. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and draw this up here.
Welcome back, everybody. In this video, we're gonna be talking about job number 3. Job number 3 is gonna be talking about wiring a single pole switch to control the top half of a duplex outlet, and then the bottom half of the duplex outlet is going to be hot 100% of the time. So for the drawings that we're going to need our switch right here, and we're going to need a broken outlet. So the broken outlet, I kind of draw it near what we're talking about here. Our normal outlet is going to look like this for your drawing. You're going to have your two kind of receptacles, and then your connections, your hot and your neutral. But since this one is then broken, on your physical tabs of your receptacle, one tab is going to be connected, so like this side, and the other side is going to be broken. So the way we draw that in our diagram is going to be like this. So again, if I'm going to be wiring this, I'm going to need this outlet in one of the boxes, and I'm going to need a switch in another one of the boxes. So for kind of making it easy, what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw my switch in here. I'm going to throw my broken receptacle here. So I'm going to have my positive, my hot wire, go through my switch, just like continuing the trend with job number 1 and 2. So if my bottom is going to be hot 100% of the time of my outlet, I'm going to need a wire nut then here for my connection. So I'm going to draw that in, it's just a kind of a black dot. So I'm already going to need power here. Now, because these are broken, they do not communicate. So kind of like a 50-yard line down the middle. This one's saying it's hot, it's only going to power this. When I have my neutral come in, my neutral will go to both, so that's good. But I'm going to need another cable going to the hot. That's why I already have this split off for my wire nut. So now I have another wire going through my switch. And remember, I like to think about it as my electricity is flowing through. This is then going to come out and then go to my top half. So this switch, we're going to turn on and off the flow of electricity to the top of my receptacle. And then for my neutral side, well, this is already deemed positive. I have my positive on this side. This is my negative. I just draw one cable that goes through and then connects to my negative side. So this is a complete drawing for then job number 3 on our list.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. If you guys remember, Mr. Fuentes was saying on the last video, we're doing job number 3 over here, which is going to be going ahead and wiring up a receptacle so that half of it is powered by a switch. So if you remember from our drawing over here, all right, we had to go ahead and make a wire connection here using our wire nut and split off our power. So we've got 2 hots going off to our other junction box over here with 1 neutral, okay? And we're going to have our 2 hots come over here into our switch to go ahead and have that control our receptacle on the other side. So I went ahead and taken the liberty of connecting up our wire nuts here on our side where our switch is going to be. Notice, right, we have a wire nut for our neutral, our white wire going across, okay, just to bring that power from our breaker all the way across. And I also did the liberty of taking a wire nut here. And they actually have 3 wires here in this wire nut here for our junction. Okay, this one right here, okay, is going to be going ahead into our switch. This is the other side that's going to be going into our switch. Right, and I have a little black electrical tape here. Okay, that's going to show you the wire that's going to be going ahead and be in that hot side full time on our junction box here. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do, right, just like in all our videos here, I'm going to go ahead and start hooking up our switch here. Right, take a note now. Still right, we just still have the 2 screws in there for ourselves and our ground screw on this side. All right, so this is just a single pole switch, meaning it only controls 1 circuit. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead, take my J hooks here. We're going to go ahead. push everything kind of back to where it was in our box. Right, so we went ahead, we mounted up our switch here. Okay, we have our two hots connected just like in our drawing. All right, now we have to go ahead and wire up our receptacle here. Now, if you remember, right, we actually had to go ahead and break off our tab on the one side of our receptacle here, right? So meaning that one half of this, okay, needs to get power on both sides of the receptacle. Hence why we have our two hot wires coming across there on our one junction box here, and we have our one neutral, which is going to go ahead still on our silver side. Okay. So I've already gone ahead, J-hooked both sides here, okay, and have my neutral on the other, just like in the previous video. All right, take that J-hook. Right, now we have to have the two hots in here because we do have that broken tab, like Mr. Fuentes said prior. Okay, it's like splitting the field or we're splitting a receptacle, right? So we have to make sure we can get power to both tabs as needed, and one of those hot wires is actually being controlled by the switch here. All right, we don't need two neutrals, so we still have that tab connection on our one side of our receptacle here. All right, so take a look now. We have our connections here set on our receptacle, and then I'll just go ahead and mount it. So in this drawing, we're actually going ahead and talking about job 4. Okay, and job 4 is wiring a single pole switch to control a light in a junction box. Okay, and then we're also going to have a duplex outlet in another junction box. Okay, that's going to be getting power the entire time. Okay, so if you remember in our previous video, okay, we had our switch here. Okay, we had to use some wire nuts to go ahead and split up our connection on our receptacle over here. Okay, so kind of the same setup here. Okay, we're going to be going ahead here and having our couple wire nuts here, bringing it up. All right. So for the first time here, let's take a look here. We're going to need a connection, a neutral here and here to make sure that we have circuits on both sides. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead, power up my switch here. Okay, as we know, we want our switch going ahead and connect to our light here. Okay. So I have power going into my switch already. I'm going to make sure I have power going in up to my socket up here as well. Okay, so now I know I have power going up to our socket here, right? So I'm halfway there. All right, next, what I'm going to do is go ahead and take my neutral here. Okay, we're going to go all the way across. I'm going to go up to our socket, right? So now I have a full circuit on our socket up there. We know, okay, I now have a full circuit here. Okay, but now we have to kind of go ahead and figure out how we're going to get our receptacle getting power there. Okay. So I'm going to make sure I'm going to get a split here. Okay, we're going to have a wire nut in our first junction box coming over. Okay, so now we actually have a wire going into here, and this is still our hot. Okay, so now we have power coming into our receptacle here, right, based on our wire nut application here. Okay, and I'm actually going to bypass our wire nut on this side going up. Okay, so I can actually split it over here. Right, so now I have my full circuit going on here, right? So if I take a look and follow my tree here, okay, we have our hot coming in from our wire, splitting across. We have power going straight to our outlet here. Okay, now we have a power coming to our switch here. Goes all the way up to our hot. Okay, so we're halfway there on this circuit. Okay, now we have our neutral coming down. It splits off of this wire nut in this junction box. So take a look here. We have full power and circuit coming back to our power supply here. And that circuit comes all the way back down there. So I have a wire nut taking place here, and a wire nut taking place here. All right, so if you take a look in our example now in the next video here, okay, you actually might see a couple more wire nuts on this junction box here. Nothing to be shocked about. It's just because we need to actually go ahead and extend our wires going up. Hey, welcome back everybody. So today we are now continuing job number 4. If you guys remember that previous section, we went ahead and sketched it up. So job number 4, just a reminder, right, was wiring a single pole switch to control a light, and then also having a receptacle that was fully powered the entire time. Okay, so what we did here, right, we have our hot coming across here. We have two hots right here and one neutral. Okay, and we're gonna go ahead and put our light up here on the top of our junction box up here in our with our socket. And then our receptacle is going to go ahead and sit right here on this mud plate in this box here. So first thing I need to do though is make sure I get enough wire going up to my socket up here on the top. So like I just said in the sketching, we're going to go ahead and add a couple wire nuts here and pull power up through our conduit here in the top end here. Come on, why is it not going? Okay, so now we went ahead, attached our wire nuts. Okay, make sure when you're going ahead and doing these wire nuts, just a reminder, right, we're making sure the one we're pulling up for our hot up here to our socket is going to be the one that's actually powered through our switch from the last job here. Okay, so once again, just a reminder, you might want to go ahead and make a little mark on your wire here, which is which. So first thing I'm going to do is go ahead, wire up my receptacle here. Again, my hot's going to go on the gold plated. Okay, my neutral is going to go on the silver plated here. Also make sure that you're grabbing a receptacle with both tabs still connected there. All right, we have our receptacle hooked up. Now I'm going to go ahead and drop this down so I can go ahead and put it in my socket. All right, so we went ahead and moved our module down. We mounted up our receptacle here down that we just wired up. I went ahead and trimmed up some of the wiring on top of my box up here, and I'm going to go ahead and wire up my socket. Okay, so just like in Mr. Fuente's video on one of the first jobs here, same setup, right? Hot goes to our gold plated, neutral goes to our silver plated here. Same thing, you might have to finagle around with these J hooks here. Okay, kind of expected. Go ahead and snug that down. Alright, again, got my hot in. Might have to rotate this, move this thing around, get yourself in a position. And we're just going to go ahead and tighten that down. Okay. And then kind of just rotate as needed. The cool thing is you don't actually have to go ahead and take these screws completely out when we put our socket in. You just go ahead 4. So as I go and plug this into my breaker, put my switch on, I should be getting light up here at the top of my socket, and now I should have full-time power going down to my receptacle.
Welcome back, everybody. So we're going to be talking about job number 5 today. Number 5 has included 2 3-way switches, turning on a light bulb. So similar to what we did in job number 2 and 4 with a single pole switch and a light bulb, now we're going to have 2 switches, these 2 3-way switches right here, to control the same light. So kind of like in your house, if you walk in through a door, you get a light switch, and then maybe on the other side of the room you have another light switch controlling the same one, or maybe a fan or something else. So we're going to draw that real quick right here. The only thing that's going to be maybe new to us, and we have covered in a different video, is this right here. So our drawing is going to be very similar to your single pole switch, but now we're kind of adding another screw, another connection. So on our 3-way switch here, we have our travelers, or also called commons. So I like to label it kind of traveler 1, and then we have traveler 2. So these are going to have to connect to each other when we have another outlet, and you'll see in the drawing just here in a second. And then we have kind of like our hot and our cold, or our positive and negative connection here. That's going to just be like normal, but instead of a gold or a silver screw, it's going to be black, and you'll see kind of on the 3-way switch when you see them in class. So when we're going to be drawing our circuit here, we're going to have our light bulb up here, our socket. So that's going to stay in the same spot like on our board. I'm going to have one 3-way switch here, and I'm going to have my other one in this box here. So my neutral, pretty much from job 4, if you're using the same board like you should be, that should be already set up for you. So I'm going to take this all the way up into my neutral side. So that's already done, half of the circuit theoretically done. Now for my positive and my hot, well, I like to think of it kind of like as an in and an out for my 3-ways. So I'm going to color this circle in. This is going to represent my black screw that you have on your 3-way switch. So I'm going to bring it in. Actually, I'm going to go this way. I'm going to bring it into this screw. Again, maybe the most technological term is maybe not in and out, but it's a nice way of thinking about it. So when I bring my hot in, now my travelers T1 and T2 have to then connect to each other. That's it. So T1 is going to connect to T1. I'll connect it here, T1. T2 is then going to connect to T2. So T1 on the left side connects to T1 on the left side. T2 on the right side connects to T2 on the right side. So we kind of have our flow going through different channels right now. And then now our other black screw is going to be as kind of an output. So connecting then from this one, my electricity flowing all the way through, it's going to come out and then to then my light socket. So if I was able to turn on this switch here, you have 2 connections, either traveler 1 or traveler 2, to kind of 2 routes, to then have your positive flow, and then your neutral is going to flow all the way up to the socket. So this is going to be job number 5. All right, welcome back, everybody. Now that we drew our job number 5 on our board, we're going to go ahead and wire it up here. So a few things to get out of the way real quick. We just finished up job 4. So as you can kind of see right now, we have our neutral going through right now with a wire nut here to extend it to this box, and another wire nut up to our light. So as we talked about in our drawing, we only need one neutral cable going directly to here. So that's already taken care of. I didn't need to modify anything for that. The only thing that I have to do kind of is already set up from job 4 a little bit, and might have to rearrange some wires, is we need our hot coming out of our fuse box. So then that's going to attach to our black screw here on our 3-way switch. Then we need 2 cables, probably preferably red ones, so we know that there are travelers. So this red one with no black, that's going to be my traveler 1 on my left side. Then I have the red hot cable with my black electrical tape, that's going to be my traveler 2 side. Then I have those 2 cables going between my boxes here. And then I'll have my kind of output hot to my other black screw on my second 3-way switch going up to my light. Now, theoretically, could you put these into one box? Sure, but for our sake, I think this would be a more real-world application of doing it in 2 separate boxes. So I'm gonna go ahead, start wiring this, and then job number 5 will be done. So first thing I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna just put my travelers up here, get them out of the way. This is gonna be my input from my box. So I already have my J hook here. I'm gonna loosen my screw up. I'm gonna put this on. I'm gonna tighten this down. All right, now I have my travelers. So I have a longer cable here. I'm gonna go have this go to the right side. So I'm gonna have it come down on this side. Hook on. Now I'm pulling it kind of with my fingers so I don't lose that tension. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this screw. There we go, that's my traveler 2. And I have my other side here. I'm gonna hook it onto this side. This is gonna be my traveler 1. Gotta be careful, they might wanna pop out. There we go. Now this switch is ready to go. I'm not going to put it in yet just because I need some extra wire on this other side. So again, my black cable, or my red hot cable with the black tape, that was my traveler 2 on the bottom right. If I double check, bottom right, I'm going to then J hook this onto then the bottom right here. Go ahead, tighten this down. Again, my other side, this is my traveler 1, so I'm going to hook this onto my bottom left side. This is right here. And then, last but not least, I'm going to have my output from my black screw here, and this is going to go up to my light switch. Now, good practice is that you normally have your hooks hooking on from the right side, so I guess coming from your 9 o'clock position. Now this is what you want most of the time, but I know stuff is pretty tight, so if you can get it, great. If not, it's not gonna be the underworld for our practice here, but there we go. And then now, we can go ahead and put these into our boxes, put our light on, and then this is gonna be wired up completely. So I'll just give them a quick start real quick. So I have these 2 in, they're not down all the way, just to save time in the video. Then, when I would go ahead and switch one of these, both of these going up and down, will then control the light. This will be job number 5.
Welcome back, everybody. So in the last little section, okay, we just talked about job 5, right, which is wiring 2 3-way switches to control any light between them. Okay, and then now we're on to job number 6. And job number 6 is going to have us wire 3 duplex outlets in parallel with one bottom half controlled by a single pole switch. Okay, so we're gonna have a total of three outlets, 1 switch. Okay, and one of these receptacles is actually gonna be controlled by the switch, right? So we're still gonna have that top half there still be hot the entire time, and that other half is going to be controlled by that light switch in our box here. Okay, so as always, right, we're gonna have our hot coming from our power over here. Okay, and this time, since there's a lot going on here, we're gonna differentiate our colors here. Okay, so I'm gonna represent my hot with my red and my neutral, okay, with my black here. Okay. First thing I want to do is kind of go ahead and situate where my 3 receptacles are going to be. Okay. For the sake of this, I'm going to go ahead and put my 2 receptacles in one box here. Okay. So these junction box, this is the first time we're going to go ahead and see we're going to have those 2 receptacles in one box. You could have 1 receptacle and 1 switch. Okay, in this case, we're going to go ahead and put 2 of our receptacles in this one junction box here at the time here. Okay, so I'm going to go over again. These are just going to be our regular receptacles. Okay, so we're not breaking any of the tabs. Okay, that's my first 2. Okay, I'm then going to actually move down and put my receptacle that's controlled by the switch, put it down here at the very bottom. Okay, and once again, note that I'm going to have the broken tab here on the side, right? Representing the fact we're going to need that hot coming in on both sides here, okay? So a little different setup here than previously before, but that's how we're going to do it here, just to kind of represent that parallel structure, right? So we're going to have power and that those neutrals coming from each of these, okay? So first thing I want to do here, right, as always, we have to go ahead and we're going to use our hot to be that circuit breaker going forward here, okay? So I know I need to get power to my switch here to have that circuit be complete. So that is going to be drawn all the way down to our switch here at the very bottom, okay? So once again, I'm just going to denote this is going to be hot, okay? And with that switch, we want to make sure we're getting power right to these so these have power full time. So based on that knowledge, right, I know I need to get power, hot going to my switch here, and hot going over to my outlets over there. Okay, so I need to use another wire nut here to get that split. Okay, so what I'm going to do, right, denote that by that big red circle there, that's our wire nut. Okay, I'm going to pull power up into my switch here. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and identify my hot and neutral connections on my receptacles over here. So I'm going to denote everything on the right side here is going to be my hot, and my neutrals are going to be the screws on the left there on our receptacle, right? Same thing here for our bottom, okay? So right now, I want to go ahead and try to get power brought over to my receptacle here on my parallel circuits here, right? So these ones are going to get full power the entire time, okay? And remember, right, I already know I'm going to have a wire nut splitting up over here, right by our circuit breaker. Right, I'm going to pull this over, okay? And now we're halfway there, okay? I also know that I need to get power to this one, okay? So this one is a split tab, okay? Now that will be controlled by the switch. Okay, so the bottom half we want to be controlled by the switch here, which means our connection from our switch, right, needs to come all the way down via our conduit to this bottom end here. So I'm going to go ahead, feed that connection, and I'm going to feed that kind of down and around. All right, so now I have almost a connection over here. Okay, so right now we have our positive connections almost all finished up here. All right, almost. Okay. Right now I have these multiple tabs here. I got 4 tabs going here, right? And I want to make sure we don't want to keep pulling wire nuts all over the place here, right? We can actually go ahead and help wire this up right here in this one junction box here, right? So right now I know I have power coming in, right? And I'm like, okay, that's great. I need to get power to my other receptacle over here. So what am I going to do? Okay, I'm actually going to take this bottom half here. Okay, I'm going to pull this up and out. Which, look at that, right? So now we have a hot, okay, coming in right here. Okay, we still, though, need to get power full time to the bottom half of my duplex outlet down here, right? Right, so we still have hot. One more tab open to that hot side here. So I'm going to take this, and I'm actually going to go ahead and feed this all the way down to this tab over here. Okay, so if you take a look here, right, we have our switch getting power. We have our one hot line coming down here to operate the top half of this outlet. Okay, we have power coming straight from our breaker and this wire nut coming into our receptacle here. We're going to bring that power from that bottom tab over to this receptacle. Right, so now so far I have all my hots wired up. Okay, the one thing we're missing now is our neutrals, okay? So right now, I'm going to go ahead and bypass my switch, right? That switch only works with that one polarity. I In this case, we're using the hot. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead, feed this all the way up to my conduit, right? And I'm still working on my left side here now, right? Because we determined the hot is on the opposite side, right? So I'm gonna go in, come up, make my first connection there, right? So now we have full power to this receptacle. If you remember in the little first part of this, we're actually gonna go ahead, we're gonna pull that other neutral down to the top side over here. So I'm gonna go ahead, pull that neutral over there, right? So now I have a circuit here complete. We're bringing that over to this side, right? Hot, right? And look at that. We still have one more tab set up on this side. And guess where that's going to go to complete that circuit? All right, we're going to go all the way down here. Okay? I'm going to feed it down. And remember, this tab is still connected, right? So we still have that connectivity there. And now I have my full circuit set up here, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at this again one more time, right? Power's coming up here, right? I have a wire nut. Right, we're bringing power up to our switch here with our hot. That hot's going to bring the power all the way down here via our switch. Right, because we want to still have that half completed and controlled by our switch. Okay, and where that wire nut split off, right, we brought that wire nut over here. We're bringing power to those receptacles. They're going to have that full-time power. Right, I'm going to bring that power from that other tab on that side over to my receptacle on the other side there. Okay, and then I'm eventually going to bring that power from that other receptacle all the way down, right? Because you still want that one half of that receptacle to be getting power full time, okay? Next, right, we have all our connections for our hots set up. We're gonna finish up our neutral, right? We're gonna solidify these connections, right? So same kind of concept, right? Bypass the switch, because it only deals in one polarity. We're gonna come across, hit our tab here. On our first one, we have a full circuit here now. We're then gonna bring that neutral, okay, and that bottom tab over to our next one, right? So now we have full power to this other receptacle, okay? And then finally, finish up the circuit on our one that's going to be controlled by our switch. All right, we're bringing it right down. We only need the one connection there because we still have that tab connection there, okay? So that's kind of a setup here for job 6, okay? And that's setting up our 3 duplex outlets lined up in parallel. Notice they're all together, right? And we have that one half that's controlled by the single pole switch there. So today we're going to continue working on job number 6, which was taking a switch, wiring it up to a parallel receptacles. We're going to be 3 in total. One of those receptacles to be half controlled by a switch to help draw out the power. Okay, and while the other 2 receptacles are going to be going ahead and having power full time here. The first thing I'm going to do, okay, is make sure I have my enough wires here going across to my boxes here. We're gonna have a lot of hots going. It's gonna be a little crazy. But the first thing I wanna do is make sure I have my switch set up in my first junction box, okay? My black listed wire here, okay, is going to be the main hot wire going down to my one receptacle that is gonna be controlled by the switch. Okay, but I also need to go ahead and draw power from our main circuit here, okay, down to the bottom half of my switch here now, okay? So I went ahead and cut a little piece of wire to get into my gold plate here for my switch in my junction box. So I'm gonna take my 3 wires, try to get them as nice and tight together, okay? This can be a little weird. And I'm just gonna keep twisting until all 3 of these wires go ahead and get connected here. It looks like I now have, okay, my wires nice and set up here, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and do my little tug test here. I'm gonna push my wire nut into the back of my box here, okay? And now I can go ahead and set up my J-hook for my switch here. So once again, that J-hook, what we're gonna do is take this end of our copper here, copper wire, get that nice set up. Kind of bend it back a little bit there for myself. And we have our other J-hook drawing power the entire time here. Again, these are gonna go onto our gold plates here. My screwdriver, loosen these up a little bit. Again, you might have to finagle this up a little bit. Nothing wrong with that. So now I got my bottom in, hooked in, all nice. Go ahead, tighten this down. Get that nice solid connection. And then once again, here on the top, same exact thing. Tighten that down. There we go. Nice solid connection. Take a look. Now our switch has half that hot going through. And we're going to push this ahead into our box here. All right, as you can see, I went ahead, threw my switch in there. So we just went ahead, wired up our switch here. And again, we have every wire that's being connected down to our switch marked off with our black little electrical tape here, okay? So this whole hot wire coming all the way down to our one receptacle here. That's gonna have the broken tab so that it can go ahead, have power to the one side, and the half of it's gonna be controlled by the switch there. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do here, right, we already went ahead, fed down our wire through our conduit here. We have two hots coming down, again, because we have one connected by the switch, one that have full-time power. Then we're gonna have the one neutral here that's gonna be coming down from our two parallel switches up here at the top. Okay, so first thing I wanna do is go ahead and wire up one of my receptacles here. All right, so we went ahead, got our one hot in, okay, but I have full-time power here with this connection here. Okay. All right, now that I went ahead, connected up my receptacle here. Again, this is the one coming full-time power now from our circuit breaker here, okay? So now we have it wired up here on the top. Okay, now I have to go ahead and actually connect my feeders into my other receptacle here. So you need to take a little bit small wire here. Okay, we're just gonna go ahead and J-hook this side, J-hook the other. So now if you take a look, I have my one connection coming in, my other one coming in from my box on this side. Now I have a couple smaller connections here, right? And these are gonna be the two wires that go ahead and connect to our other receptacle on this side of our box. So now we're gonna go ahead, set up these on our other receptacle here. All right, now I've gone ahead, we've connected both of our switches here, okay? We have our negative going across, now we have our hot coming into our next cold plate here. And then we can go ahead, tuck these into the back here, okay? But before we do that though, I wanna make sure I go ahead, connect our wires going down here, okay? So we're actually gonna pull our neutral side from this one over here on the left, okay? And we have our other hot going down, because we just still get power down to that receptacle coming from this side here. So that's what I'm gonna go ahead and do next, okay? Same thing, just J-hook, okay? And we'll go down and finish up with our bottom switch here. So we've gone ahead, snugged up our receptacles here, right? I still have my three wires coming up over here. So last thing you need to do is go ahead and wire this up. Again, make sure you make note of which wire here, okay, was the hot one coming all the way up, okay? So in this case, I marked off my black one here, which I know is gonna be the half that's me controlling part of my receptacle here. If you haven't already, make sure you use the one with a broken tab on top of here as well. Okay, so your gold side should have a broken tab. If it doesn't, it's gonna still have power the entire time. So I went ahead, secured my receptacle there. Now we're gonna go ahead, put in our neutral. Again, don't disconnect the neutral side, okay? We want just the one neutral. You're only gonna disconnect the hot side. So I went ahead, screwed it in, both plates here. So now if I flip my switch on and off, okay, half of this receptacle is going to be controlled by that switch. Okay, we're going to have full-time power running down. Okay, and then we drew power to the one bottom receptacle there. Okay, coming down from our switch here. Okay, so setting up that parallel circuit here, going all the way through.
How's it going, everybody? It's been a while. Well, we're back here with job number 7, last one on our first intro list. So, job 7 says you need to wire 2 duplex outlets with one bottom half controlled by a single pole switch and a single pole switch operating on a light. So, if you're using the same board that you used in job 6, you're going to be able to use a lot of wires and the same kind of hardware from job 6 again in job 7. So, we have 2 switches. One of them is going to go into a light, and then I have 2 outlets, you know. One of them is going to be normal, one of them is going to then be broken. And then I'm going to have one of these switches, you know, control that side of that broken one. So, I'm going to go ahead and draw this, put this in. So, first, starting out, to make myself easier and when we get to the board, Mr. Feeney and I kind of talked through this a little bit. We're going to go ahead and put both of our switches in this first main box. We're then going to go put our 2 receptacles in our second box to the left. We're going to have this one be our normal, then we'll have our broken, so our broken, B for broken, on this left hand side. And then we're going to go ahead and put the light up here. So, now just coming from my power, I'm going to do the hot in a red marker. So, if I have a hot coming up, you're going to have to probably, this is going to be a pretty thick wire nut. So, I need a hot from here going to this switch. Then from this switch, it's going to go all the way to the light. Positive, 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 positive. Now, my other thing I need from this switch, so I need another one. This is going to be going out. This is then going to go to the bottom half of that broken, because this switch is going to operate that bottom half of the broken receptacle. Then I also need another one going towards just my positive on my other receptacle. Then from here, like in job 6 when we did them in parallel, I can just hook another cable from here up to the other side, and I'll get that positive. So right now, both of my switches are positive, both of my receptacles have all their positives, my light has a 2. So I'm going to put the red away, I'm going to grab my neutral, it's going to be my black wire. So from here, same thing, I'm going to have some wire nuts. I'm going to have a neutral go straight up to the light. Now, just the light circuit of it, because we kind of threw it in there to have a real world application. When my light has a neutral, it comes back as a positive, we're good, that's done. Then now, I have to have another cable going from here to my neutral side. That's going to connect to my receptacle. Then I'll have another cable go to the other side, and it'll connect to this side. So, from here, I have pretty much 3 neutral cables, but a lot of hot here. So from this wire nut, we have 1 coming in, 3 going out. Both switches going receptacle, receptacle going over, switch goes to the broken side, switch goes to the light. And this is going to be it for then job number 7. Alright, so welcome back everybody. We're now here on our board doing job number 7. So I just want to walk you through what we kind of have here right now. Then we'll go ahead and add pretty much just our last switch that we need for then controlling our light. So right now, yes, I know both of these are red, but these are going to be our wire nuts that we drew on our board last time. So I have 1 cable coming up, and then I have my 3 cables going out. Remember, just like how we drew. So this cable here is going to go to my new switch. I have another cable going here to then the switch, and then my black wire like we had in job 6. That's going to come here to then my broken outlet. And then my other cable here that's kind of tucked away in the back, that's just my positive running over to my switch, and then it's going to have another smaller connection that's already in there still, going to my then broken receptacle. So that's that wire nut. My other wire nut here for my neutral, I have my neutral coming up, then I have 2 going out, kind of had like I had in my drawing. One of them is going to then go up to my light, and I'm gonna have to add another wire nut here just to extend it because our cables are a little bit shorter. And then the other neutral in here is connected then to my switch, or sorry, my receptacle, and it's connected to my silver side. And then same thing, we have another short one going over already to our other receptacle. So a little bit of stuff left over from job 6, which is awesome. So we can reuse that and save some time. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in, and then I'm gonna do some wire nuts over here, connect this, because my black again is my power going to my broken receptacle, and then pretty much job 7 will be done. So I already have one J hook here. I'm gonna add another here for then my switch. Now, black wire coming from my switch going to my broken outlet. Now that's going to be my one on the left-hand side. Neutral is already connected, and then my bottom is getting powered from my other switch or receptacle. So this guy, I'm going to go ahead and connect to my other side, so then my switch will be able to operate that. Now there's that. This is all ready to go. Now, I need to do 2 more wire nuts right here. I have my positive coming in from my switch. I just need a wire nut to extend, and same thing with the neutrals. I just need a wire nut to extend. Now, if you had this running one cable all the way through, great. If you're like us and kind of have to extend it, that's no problem at all too. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab 2 yellow wire nuts, and because these are kind of the smaller ones, so I just have 2 wires here. I'm going to connect this. All right, there's one. Then I'll have another one for my neutrals here. And there's going to be number 2. So what I'm doing right now, I'm going to tuck those in the back. I'm going to start attaching everything into the boxes. You could definitely not do what we're doing and having them just using 2 boxes here. You can spread out a little bit more, but if you're up for maybe a challenge and want to keep everything compact, go for it. Try it out. Try doing your 2 switches in one, and then your other 2 receptacles on the other side. So those aren't tightened all the way down, but I have them there. Now again, I'm gonna go on this side. And I might be wondering, I got some cables here. These are just left over. Didn't want to take them out just in case. So go ahead and put these receptacles in.
Noggin out of my frame, dude.
Now this other side as well.
We're gonna cut that one out.
All right, so there you go. I have my first switch here, operating my light. My second switch here is going to be operating the top half of my outlet. And then, again, for my wire nuts, I have a positive going to here. Then I'm doing 2 parallels for my positive going over here, neutral going over here. And then that's pretty much it. My light will be turned on by this. This other one will be controlling that. And then 1, 2, 3 will always be hot. This is job number 7.